Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the DoersCast powered by Entrepreneurs at Austin, where we highlight small business owners, entrepreneurs, and just people who put action to their ideas. The ultimate doers, if I must say. And today's guest that we're bringing on is no exception. When we first met him at the networking event, he was honestly just a breath of fresh air, full of high energy, high spirit, just a fun guy to be around. And that's really rare considering he comes from a background of working as a software dev for 10 years. Like, it's insane to see someone like that. And on top of all of this, he's been working on this project called QuickyTools, which is a web-based 3D modeling platform which provides digital content creators with easily customizable human models. Now, please welcome our very special guest, Mr. Qui Van. Woo! Hello,
Good to be here.
hello. Can you give us like a brief introduction on who you are, and we'll get this show on the road.
Sure. So, like you said, I've been writing software, doing application development for over 10 years professionally. I went to school at Florida State. That's where I got my undergrad. I didn't really get it in software. I got it in mechanical engineering.
Oh, smecky.
Yeah. And then I even got a master's at Georgia Tech in mechanical engineering.
Wait,
so I tried it. I wanted to become a mechanical engineer, but the world was moving in the direction of software.
And that's what Yes, sir. Well, hey, I remember when we first met you at that networking event, and when I was first talking to you, it sounded like you had like an extremely noble cause for starting QuickyTools. So I want to ask if you could touch on more of like the origin story on how this project came about.
Right. So QuickyTools is actually the name of the company, and the product right now, the code name is Day 6. So I came about, choosing this, pursuing this idea because I was going to get into game development. But then in the process of learning game development, I just realized how difficult it was to create characters for video games. And then beyond that, for, animated films or anything that will require 3D characters. So the 3D character pipeline is just like complex, very complex, right? So first you kind of have to come up with like a character design. Then you have to model it. Then you have to rig it. Then you have to animate it. And then you have to write the controller script for it, for video games specifically. But then I'm sure film does the same. And then there's other parts of it like, texturing and styling and so on and so forth. That's what it takes from start to finish. And it's just it's so complex and it's just so involved, and there's just like so many things that can go wrong. And in the process of, trying to build my first character, I realized, I'm not gonna finish my game, in a realistic amount of time. And so I realized that I'm not the only one that's facing this issue. So I could continue working on that game and, maybe eventually be able to publish it, or I can work on a tool that's going to enable pretty much anyone to create characters, whether it's for their video games or for their animated films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember like when we were talking, you were like saying, man, either right now in my life, it's either I work 5 years on a project and then go jump to another one and jump another 5 years, and like a lot of time spent on just these single projects. Or I could take this time and invest it in building like this sort of base and foundation for all people and act like a kind of pillar for everyone to rely on. And I think that ties a lot back to legacy. Do you think that's like more important for you to build a legacy for yourself as like work to be proud of?
That's a part of it. I do want to, attach my name to something that's not just successful, but I guess useful, right? That's why I became an engineer in the first place, was to make useful things. So like you were saying, I could work on a single project, like a single video game for 5 years, and maybe hopefully, right, if it's somewhat good, a few people will play it. Or I could work on a tool that can enable thousands, maybe, hopefully, and then beyond that, maybe tens of thousands of people to create their own video games. And not create their own video games, but create it faster, right? And then if that touches even more people, then why not, right? To me, that's a better trade-off, is to enable others to create similar things at a higher production rate versus me just creating one thing, the same type of thing. Like I'm not, the numbers, like it doesn't really match, right?
So about like with your development process, what is like one of the hardest things of being a developer for this that most people on the outside world just don't see or don't understand because they don't have like that perspective on
it? So I have to just clarify. Are you asking like just development in general, or this like specific
it?
entrepreneurial?
Specifically on like this entrepreneurial path and incorporating that with your technical background.
The most difficult thing, and I'm sure others will agree, is that right now I'm a solo developer, solo entrepreneur. So I have to do everything, even non-technical. You have to do everything. Just like, even going to the networking events. It's fun, but you still have to, schedule. You still have to put that into your calendar. You have to make time. You have to drive out there. Networking is fun. And then you kind of have to, go back, regroup, kind of, recap and just do all of that. So you have to do that. You have to do the business side. So QuickyTools is the business name, and I actually incorporated it, right, just to have something to work under as an entity. But that takes a lot of time and energy and effort. And there's a few other things that are non-technical that require time and attention. But then on top of that, you have to stack in the technical side. And since I'm doing solo, I have to do all technical, right? So it's full stack. It's not just like full stack. It's like you actually have to do it, test it, automate it, release it, maintain it, and then just build on top of it. And it's a lot of work. So
yeah, I could imagine like with us, I'm blessed to have like a great team to surround and support me. But even then, like it's always a heavy plate. Like all of us are wondering, like, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And every passing moment is like, man, we could be doing something to build up the brand. So like, I can't even imagine taking on this whole monster on your own. And like, I was even questioning, like, inquisitive about this when we were talking. We were like, man, why aren't you like going out to reach out for like additional team members? And I remember you telling me that you're like extremely selective with who you're sharing your vision with, as to make sure that they're just as invested in the project as you. And that kind of segues into the question I wanted to ask you, like, what is the criteria of like potential team members? Because I know you're searching for team members, but what are you looking for in someone to help you along this huge journey?
So the main criteria is that they're gonna commit to it, right? And that's the hardest part for people, is like committing to something where you're not getting a guaranteed paycheck, right? So as an entrepreneur, for me at least, you don't really like, I don't have the funds personally to even fund myself. So I can't pay others. So what I'm looking for is someone who, like you say, shares that vision, who understands the reach that we can have and the impact that we can have with a tool like this. So I want someone that's going to come on, buy into the mission, and then contribute in every way that they can, right? Because again, just like I'm doing everything, whoever comes on will most likely have to take on a lot as well. So it's like you have to have that attitude to kind of be like you call it like a pioneer, like back in the days, people went west, right? They didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They just knew that that's the direction that they were heading. They have to be able to handle anything. And this is similar, especially if you're going in and you're doing something that is kind of like, if you have like big goals for it, then you're gonna have to take on a lot. So that's the main criteria. It's just people who can commit and who are willing to accept anything that comes their way.
100%, sir. 100%. And like with this vision, I know it must be huge and grand for you, enough to just motivate you to work day in, day out, get in the grind. Like I even called you and interrupted your grind session, which I apologize for that. But I wanted you guys to show the audience like what your grand vision was. Because when you were telling it to us, like you were like capturing us, captivating, and like I could see the passion in your eyes there for this project. And I know like the people who didn't have like our prize interaction or know about it, like I want to just share that kind of window there. So could you touch on and explain like your vision and like what gets you pumped about it?
Mm-hmm. My vision for the service is to allow anyone, and I mean just like anyone, right, that has like a computer and an internet connection. I want them to be able to create a video game character that they can plug into their game engine in less than 10 minutes. And it'll be complete, right? So it'll be the mesh. It'll be modeled. I'll have like, texturing enabled. It'll be rigged, animated, and then when you import it into the game engine, it'll be just like a one-click step to set it up in the game engine where the controller is available. So in less than 10 minutes, I want anyone to be able to just download the character, stick it into the game engine, and then they have, either their game controller or like on the keyboard. The second that they move the joystick or press a button, then the character moves and behaves like they expect, just like in any video game out there. So rather than going through that whole cycle, just go on the site, 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. Hopefully it's like 1 minute. They just pick whatever, customize it, download it, insert it, and then hit play, and then it goes.
Man. So it's like the kind of like block code, drag and drop equivalent, but in the 3D modeling world?
Correct. So hopefully no code, right? So this is kind of like a no code tool, but yes, essentially that. And for 3D modeling and just for characters first, but yes, eventually everything. I want people to be able to like create worlds just using this service.
Mm-hmm. Did you have like any inspirations or like video games or like video game creators who you looked up to that kind of fuel your passion for those late nights?
A lot. I used to play quite a bit of video games, and it's really any type of art, right? Any type of that art that's inspiring, but video games is one. Is also I consider it art, and I would say if I were to pick kind of like I guess a director, I don't even know his name, I just know his game. But have you ever played Shadow of the Colossus?
I know about it. I've seen gameplay of it. I never had the consoles myself when I was growing up. I was always a low specs guy, but I definitely couldn't run that game. But I've seen it.
Yeah. So just to summarize it, the game is just one character, right? But you go around and you have to beat bosses. But every boss is unique, right? And it's kind of like bosses, they're grand, right? There's a lot of design that goes into them. Each has like their own how would you call it? Just like their own
backstory.
Not maybe a backstory, but more the mechanics, right?
Okay.
Where how they move, how they attack, how they behave, so on and so forth. So when I think about that game, I think, damn, that's a masterpiece. That's insane. The art style is also, it's not like so vibrant and it's not so detailed in a way, but you can tell that whoever put time and energy into creating those characters, like they're top of at the top of their game. They're the best of the best. And I'm thinking, if I wanted to make a game like that, how long would it take me? Right? And so my answer is that would take me forever. I don't think I could ever put a game like that together unless I had like a huge team, but rarely anyone has that. So I always think to that, and I'm thinking, all right, what if I made a tool where that could be possible? And I think it could be possible with what I'm trying to build. So initially, my idea is to allow anyone to kind of, just put together a game character, but kind of like an offshoot to that idea. It kind of goes into like evolutionary theory with like, species. But imagine if you created a character and you posted it, right? And then someone else was able to take that character and tweak it and work off of it. And then if you iterate that 100 times between, 100 people, if they were all fine with just like, publishing their tweaks and allowing other people to work off of it, then eventually you're going to get to that high level of like, really solid, really, powerful characters in a way, just like really defined, really, just highly designed characters. And then and if it gets to that level, then someone could just come along and then either buy it or license it and put it into the game. And then you put like 10 of those, bosses together, and then boom, you have that game. So.
Yeah, that's insane. Just a whole community-driven aspect to it. Like I didn't see that when you're first explaining the idea to me, but honestly, it's such a scalable product that could make video game design more of an intuitive and fun thing. Because I know a lot of us kids, especially in like my generation, we came into here when the interfaces were all nice and all we had to do was plug in the game and enjoy the technology. But none of us like really appreciate what goes into it being like a finished product until like, we go to college or we try coding it ourselves and realize, man, Scratch is kind of hard. Like this stuff is kind of hard. So like, I can definitely appreciate it, especially bringing in the non-coding aspect. Like I want to see this thing succeed. I want to see it succeed because that's something to pass on into the younger folks and like just see where it takes off. Kind of like with neural networking or like machine learning, where it's just they just keep implementing new and better trials. And like I see the vision for it, and it's definitely something like I want to get behind. But with this, dude, I'm worried for you, dude. I'm worried for you because like you're putting so much time into this thing. It's insane. Like I can see it, and I don't doubt you at all when you tell me like you wake up and for the whole day that's your sole focus. So like, dude, I gotta ask you, man. Like, how long do you think it will be until like you won't be able to do it by yourself anymore? And like, what drives you? How can you stay so laser focused on like project because I can barely sit still on the stuff that like I really care about for more than a few hours. And maybe that's just because I've always been around technology and it got the ADD going around. But I just want to ask you, like, how do you not burn out from all of this?
There's a few reasons. There's a few reasons. So number one is that this is not like my first attempt at entrepreneurship. So this is really my third attempt. So the first attempt, I crashed and burned. And I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot, right? And it took me a few years to recover. Because I did the solo thing then too, because I couldn't find people to join on that effort. So after that first time, I was like, all right, I tried it. I give up. I'm never coming back, right? But then you take time off, you go back to industries, you do the 9 to 5, and so the second thing that keeps me going is that I don't want to go back to a 9 to 5. So. That's really I would say that's my second biggest driver beyond trying to fulfill this vision, right? So number one, I want to get this out because I feel like it's going to be very useful for a lot of people. But number two, I really don't want to go back to doing just I call it like fulfilling someone else's vision,
right?
Because there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5, but that's someone else's. That's what someone else wants to achieve, and that's fine. And I'll help people, but at this point in my life, like I really want to go after what I'm passionate about, right? So that's the second thing that keeps me going. And then as far as burnout goes, because I've had the experience prior, just with my previous failure, I understand better now not to get to the burnout point, right? So when I'm feeling like really stressed out, then I take a break. I've been telling a lot of people this, like especially people who are like just starting new and on their own. If you ever get to a point where in your dreams, right, you're coming up with this, you're trying to solve a problem, and every time you come with a solution, it doesn't solve it, and you keep trying to solve it, and then you wake up and you realize it's just a dream. That's when you have to take a break. Like when you start dreaming of the problems that you're working on a daily basis, you got to take like a week break at least, and just like reset. So that's kind of how I keep it together. It's just like when I get to that point, then I step off the gas, and then I eat normally again. I make sure to get exercise. I go out and I try to socialize. It was difficult with COVID and all, but now it should be fine as things are getting back to normal. But yeah, the idea is that you push the gas, you push the pace. But then when you need to, take care of yourself, just let go, reset, and then go back to it.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah, I'm more of a young soul, so I haven't gotten to that complete point of like exhaustion and burnout. But give me a few years, and I think like our audience and me especially will be able to apply that advice of taking care of yourself. 100%. And I think this interview is going well so far. And I just want to ask like one more question on like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's kind of like our coveted question here on the DoersCast, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you have any goals, roadmaps, aspirations, or where you want to be?
I see myself still working on this service, but I see a lot of users, and then I see myself, stepping away from kind of like the active development role, and more in terms of just growing it, marketing it, just figuring out how to take it beyond that, right? I mean, of course, what I've discussed so far is going to take a lot of effort. I don't think I'll achieve that in just 5 years, but hopefully I'll be like on the way, right? I'll be on that trajectory where I can actually like, put more thought and more planning into executing and achieving that vision. Because right now it's all just in my head, and that's just what I want to achieve. So hopefully in 5 years, I'll be actually like putting pen to paper on how to get to that point.
Mhm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But actually, that just made me think of one more thing. So, like, one final question. Do you think, like, what makes you believe that you are a doer? What are the qualities that make you a doer and an entrepreneur? Like, usually people think of like, oh, what's an entrepreneur? And they come in all shapes and forms, but you're like more of the rare ones with a technical background and you're trying to code something with it. So what do you think are you describing or your defining qualities as an entrepreneur?
Just one quality, or can I do
So like you
multiple?
can go off of like whatever you feel like has many qualities, like, but what do you think makes you a solid entrepreneur in your eyes?
I'm a solid entrepreneur because, or a doer, as you say, is because I just do it. Right? I don't make excuses. So I keep lists on things that I need to do, and one by one, I do them all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't let any of them slip. I don't um, I don't procrastinate on them. Now, I'll say one thing though. I don't do them all just to do them all, because I do like cross out some if they turn out they don't matter, right? Because sometimes you get more information and you realize, oh, that's not necessary, or oh, I'm going to solve that with this other task. But I do all of that, and I mean I do pretty much everything that I say I'm going to do, and that's really it, right? So once I adopted that attitude, pretty much I've been able to do a lot. Almost, I'm not going to say everything because you can't achieve everything, but I've
Mm-hmm.
achieved everything that I put my mind to. And so that's really the most important thing. And then once you get into that mindset, then it kind of becomes a habit. And then once it becomes a habit, and then you kind of see what like you're able to get things done. So then you just shoot higher and higher. And then along the process, you pick up skills, you pick up knowledge, and then eventually you can pretty much do anything. So that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yes, sir. Well, that's Mr. Qui Van, guys, with the winning positive mentality. Honestly, a pleasure to have you on this episode. And we're going to keep in touch, man. We're going to keep in touch. And we wish you the best of luck over in your endeavors. But that's it for this episode, guys. And we'll catch you soon.